Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 of SED 445. Can you even believe that this starts the halfway point of the semester? I feel like we just started. It's crazy how quickly the summer is flying by, but hopefully that means we'll just all have some time to enjoy the rest of summer when this course is completed. So as always, we start with our weekly checklist. So this week you're going to complete your required video or your required readings. There's a video on the curriculum development project where I walk you through a sample. So check that out before you start the curriculum development project on your own. Continue to work on the team presentation and keep updating your Google folders. This week too, you're going to be completing parts 1 and 2 of the curriculum development project. I'm going to open up those templates for you in just a moment and the rubric to walk you through and making sure that you're familiar with that. And then you're going to submit your reading log 2. I see that this says 1 here. I'll update that before I publish, but it will be your second reading log that you're submitting. So your required readings this week from Childra et al. And it's on backwards design and backwards mapping. So this is really going to help you as you're starting your curriculum development project, as well as a UDL article. And these two readings you will use for your reading log. Going to compare those two at the end of this module. Next, you'll see here is a video that you'll be watching, and it's all about the curriculum development parts 1 and 2 that you're going to be submitting at the end of this week. Just showing you here is the template that you're going to be using that you'll submit. So you're going to write a brief introduction. You're going to describe your audience or your target classroom, along with the description of your problem area of need, your area of focus, the physical, social, administrative, and educational resources that you have available in your classroom. And then this should look pretty familiar to most of you, depending on which format you chose for unwrapping or unpacking the standards. So again, you're going to put the subject, grade, what the title of your unit is, and pacing just means how long do you think this unit is going to take you to get through. Then here you'll have your priority standards as well as those supporting standards, and we talk a little bit more about that in the video if you need some additional information on that. And then here's where I really encourage you, take some of the feedback that you received from that brief online assignment, where you have your concepts, what the students need to know, the skills, really breaking down and unpacking those skills. Remember, you don't want to be like Joey from Friends wearing all of Chandler's clothes. You really want to break that down into manageable pieces for your learners. Here you have your essential questions, and if this is something that you received feedback on and a link provided to you within the online assignment that you submitted, I really would encourage you to read that resource and think, how can you make your essential questions thought-provoking, open-ended, and really meaningful for what it is that you're teaching? The big ideas or understandings in student-friendly language, then the key terms and vocabulary that you're going to be using during your unit, and then your assessment plan. And here you'll see you're going to attach, so it'll be a separate document for your pre-assessment baseline, and then what you're planning to use for your progress monitoring and a post-assessment. So those will be additional attachments, and you'll just kind of have that as an appendix that you'll add. And then you're going to describe how you plan to differentiate this unit. We'll talk more about part 3 when we get there, but you can definitely start taking a look. This is more where you're going to be explaining what are those instructional strategies that you're going to be using that are research-based. What will your weekly lesson plan look like? And then how you're accommodating, modifying, differentiating, etc. So we'll take a look more at that in the coming weeks. We'll just get started with weeks 1 and 2, or parts 1 and 2 for now. But I also wanted us to take a look at the rubric. And if you see here, We'll take a look at our proficient area. So part 1 is worth a total of 20 points, and part 2 only has 2 sections of indicators, but also worth 20 points. So you'll see that the weight is different, where proficient in part 2 is worth 10 points, proficient in part 1 is worth 5 points. So what really sets the proficient apart from emerging is that you really have a clear description of everything that you're explaining. And I'll tell you, when I grade and when I write, I often use the rubric as my own checklist. So I will be going through and looking, did I discuss grade level? Check. Level of support? Check. Instructional planning? Check. And just going through and using that for my own self to make sure that I've included all of the areas that are needed in the rubric. So for the first part, it is that narrative of the description of your audience and your target classroom. The second area is describing the problem area of need. And here is important what a proficient sets apart by having at least 3 peer-reviewed scholarly references. And I will note here for you 3 relevant peer-reviewed scholarly references. So make sure that whatever references you choose, they really align with what it is that you're planning to teach. And then you're going to describe how the focus that you have chosen will benefit your students. And again, how does this relate to your students' IEP? And the last part of part 1 is where you're going to discuss all of those resources that you have. So the physical resources in your classroom, social, administrative, educational resources, and how those are going to support learning. Part 2 is really that more of the visual graphic organizer of the unpacking piece. So again, I would make sure you name the unit of your study. A lot of these are just, did you do it, did you not? The unit type, how long is it going to take? What are the standards? Have you unwrapped or unpacked them? And then really taking the feedback of those big ideas and essential questions and connecting to the level of bloom. Here I would encourage you to name the level of bloom versus putting a number next to that. I know several of you did that in the online activity, which is fine, but I think it would just be more meaningful if you just attached what is the word that you're connecting to in terms of bloom. And again, using that A through H as a checklist, but then you're going to make sure that they are exceptionally well addressed for the proficient category. And then the next area is your unit assessment. So you're going to have your pre and your post assessment. Remember, those will be attached as an appendix. And then you are going to attach all assessments, attach answer keys. How are you going to score? So make sure that you include all of those items as well.